Did you guys, before we start, have you seen the like House of David trailer?
Yeah.
No. What?
Did you know that N.D. Wilson is a part of that?
Who's Andy?
Doug Wilson's son?
Yeah. No, I didn't know that. I thought it was a Mormon thing.
No.
What is it?
House of David's about like David's. I don't know if it's about David's life or just about his triumph over Goliath. It's hard to tell.
I think it's about his life.
Okay. This is a trailer about David.
Well, hello everyone. Beggars Canyon, fresh off the take. We're about to do a fresh take on this video about David's polygamy life or something. I don't know what it's about. David. It's about his house, and we'll see what house it is. So
how he really wanted this girl, but she was already married. So he was like, "How can I get that girl?" And if you set your mind to things, kids, you can get whatever you want.
I really hope that this. Well, yeah, I really hope that this trailer ends with like a bunch of foreskins as a foreshadowing.
Ew.
Play the tape.
You had to go there.
Rhyme got to be good. Brings the power. Here we go.
Yeah.
The Lion of Judah.
Wheel of Time.
He loves rocks as a kid.
Change the course of history.
Wait, he does get the smooth stones out of the river, though, right?
Yeah.
Cowards! Send me your champion!
Goliath! How big that guy is, man.
Can one act of defiance create the legend? I will tell you the story of David.
One act of defiance against whom?
Why do my brothers get to fight?
You gotta put defiance into the Americans.
David, you are not a man of blood.
An outcast who became one of the most famous kings who ever lived.
God does not see what man sees. He sees into the heart. And you,
that's Samuel.
You have the heart of a lion.
Probably already killed the lion.
The Philistines have assembled.
I saw the print of a hand larger than a weaver's basket.
I don't think it's his whole life.
What?
I think it's just
up to the giant.
I will fight the giant.
Fight him with the same spirit you bring into this room.
They gotta show him put on the armor and then not
You play music for my father. Now he chooses you as champion. How will you do this?
It's not about the greatness of the giant. It is about the greatness of God.
Are you afraid?
What was that?
Terrified.
I believe in you.
Like the Avatar?
So, as the fate of a people hangs in the balance.
Was that Abner?
Can one stone change the course of history?
You know, to show the CREC influence, they should have like sitting on top of Goliath with a cigar.
Well, I'm sure there's plenty of wine.
Drinking a bunch of liquor.
Yeah.
That, hasn't been invented yet.
Well, I'm going to call it like the show's going to be about like how he loves the water and like loves rocks because he's, they're so shiny. And then that's
what you got from it.
Well, yeah. I mean, they look, he's by the river, just like picking up rocks for no reason.
I hate all biblical adaptations.
Yeah, I know, they're horrible.
I actually don't think it's good to have biblical adaptations because the visual is so stimulating and it becomes so entrenched in your memory that, and anyone who's seen Prince of Egypt knows this, right? It's like then you start thinking of the story in that way instead of actually focusing on what the biblical
Don't
text
you
says.
dare talk bad about the Prince of Egypt.
Yeah, that's the
I
problem,
love it.
though. Yeah, I love the Prince of Egypt too, but it distorts the biblical message, right? Like, because ultimately you're changing the story and you're teaching people to read it as, look at these events. Again, it's look at the history of it, which is that's the bare bones of it. That's not actually the message. The message is like far more than that, but that's totally lost because you have to add all this dialogue and you have to really feel like you get to know the characters, and it's like, well, the biblical narrative's not doing that. And so adding all that stuff ultimately changes it, and then it really is a different story. It's almost like, I don't like what God had to say about the event. Here's what I would say about the event.
You need to dramatize it to make it interesting. It doesn't matter how good your theology is. It doesn't matter, how good your interpretation might be. You are going to put things into the text and into the story that are not there. Yeah. Because you have to be able to adapt it to that medium. You have to be able to, you have to add things to it. And I think that's the problem.
Well, again, you're not God writing it, so you're a different interpreter. So like I always go back to Perchik and Fiddler on the Roof when he's reading about Laban, and then he says to the girls, therefore never trust an employer. And it's like, that's not the point of the story, but that's so typical of like, I don't care what God's saying. I want to tell you what I got out of it.
I think the only benefit, like there are some beneficial things. Like I know the movie Prince of Egypt got me interested in learning what actually happened. So like they could like drive somebody to be like, oh, that's interesting, and then they actually read the account, right? So I mean, even I wasn't very, I hate to say it, Drake. Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I wasn't a Lord of the Rings fan until I watched Fellowship of the Ring. I was like, okay, I need to know what this is about.
But now when you read the book, do you see the characters as they're portrayed in the movie?
I did at first, yeah. But then the more I read, then the more the book kind of took over. And then the movie became just like this, I don't know, this other thing. But yeah, I mean, initially, when I read Frodo, I saw Elijah Wood, right? But yeah.
I also kind of think that Christians are trying to think of the right way to say this. You know how like in fandoms, so Lord of the Rings is a good example. People were furious that Viggo Mortensen was cast as Aragorn because they didn't think it was a good casting. And they got so up in arms about everything, right? Like everything that's different in the movie versus the book. It was like they were just ready to do battle on it. Like they were just furious about it. And that happens in every fandom. But then when it comes to a biblical adaptation, Christians are just like, well, I'm just glad that it's being made into a movie. Like it's just Christians are just they're like, oh, I'm just happy that I'm happy the story's out there. We should all support it.
Yeah, it's like it's
kind of pathetic, frankly.
Any break into the mainstream is like, oh, that's why people uplift like Kanye, right? Or any of these people, and it's like,
well, not anymore.
Yeah, well, that lasted like 5 minutes. I mean, but it is ridiculous. Didn't David have red hair, by the way? I
don't know.
I could have swore he had red hair.
My daddy looked like what they portrayed,
like the little. Yeah, I mean, he looks. I mean, he looks like he would be Israelite or whatever. It's just, I don't think he looked like that at all. So,
but the problem is like for especially for the company behind this is Christian victory, right? Because this is Christian.
This is a post-mill takeover.
Right. This is like, if you're not gonna read the Bible, I might as well watch a movie kind of about the Bible, condensed in 2 hours.
We're gonna destroy Game of Thrones because look at this movie about David we got.
Is it a movie or is it a show? Is it a movie or a show?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's a show.
If it's
it's a show or a movie.
I thought it was a show.
Maybe it is.
If it's a show, then
I got an
it-
email from
it is-
Canon Press about it, so I'm gonna look.
It is a TV show.
But yeah, it's a show.
Oh wow! So it probably is his
It is a
whole
show.
life then.
You know what it is? I bet the first season is this, and then they're like, "Oh, if it does well, we'll
Mhm.
do the next part of his life, where he, murders and
Yeah, and then let's have the affair with Bathsheba, and
Yeah.
these are all great things to portray
Yeah.
in film.
I didn't
Yeah.
like who.
That's
I didn't
that's
like the way
another
Samuel
problem.
looked.
You what?
I didn't like the way they Samuel looked. Like that's not how.
Yeah, that's not how I
Imagine.
pictured Samuel either, but who knows? I mean, but I do think that is another problem because the biblical narrative's filled with violent and all sorts of sexuality and nudity that are meant for you to read, but not
Mhm.
not see.
Yeah.
In fact, in
Mhm.
order to see them, you'd be sinning. To read about them, you're not, and so that's
Yeah.
that's highly problematic.
Well, I made the joke about the foreskins, right? But that's kind of the point,
Yeah, that's
right?
something you shouldn't see,
You probably shouldn't see that.
Well, there was a movie.
or at least I don't want to see it.
There was a movie called David or something in the 80s by Richard Gere. Like Richard Gere was David.
Oh yeah.
And like where I'm watching with my family and everybody's thinking this is perfectly fine. And they literally show the bathing scene of Bathsheba.
No,
Oh.
that's
And
not-
it's
Oh,
like,
man.
oh yeah, this is a great family biblical movie. This is
It's
perfect, whatever.
historical.
Yeah, it's in the Bible, man.
but it's what people always say. They say it's tasteful.
Tasteful.
The nudity
Yeah.
is always tasteful.
It's like
I mean,
Discovery
if
Channel.
like a Playboy model bathing is tasteful, then great.
I read it
I
for
mean-
the articles, Brian. That was the excuse, right? I read it for the
Hey,
articles.
okay, actually,
right, yeah.
actually, Playboy used to publish a lot of really great fiction. I'm in all seriousness, they really did. I'm not.
You're the only
kidding,
one
they
who's
did.
ever read it. So
Well, I'm just telling you.
yeah, it is a problem though. But even the violence, biblical violence or whatever, if you were to actually portray it and not like cut away or anything, it's
be rough.
extremely
Yeah,
violent.
it's very violent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, it's meant for you to read, not be seeing, because that's not the medium that God used to deliver His word.
Yeah.
So I
don't
mean,
watch
I don't know. I'm sure we'll watch it and critique it or whatever. I don't have a problem watching this. I can't watch anything with an image of Christ like what is
Like
that?
The Chosen.
Yeah, The Chosen or whatever.
Passion of the- yeah.
That I think is the sin to watch. But here it's just a matter of seeing like what they're going to do with the biblical narrative, like Prince of Egypt, just seeing what they do. I'm an Old Testament major. When I went and saw Prince of Egypt, I'm like, what is
That's
this?
definitely not true to
This is Oh yeah, no, in no way. There's like they change almost everything.
I mean, I was a child of the '90s, so I just watched it as
Yeah.
Yes. It
a
was like the
child.
safest thing to watch.
So
Well, my
And the
kids have
music.
seen it about 300 times, so they probably think that's the actual
Yeah.
biblical narrative.
Yeah. And that the Jews actually sang those songs.
mhm.
Yeah,
That's,
right.
That's what they were saying.
There are some great songs.
Their songs are so good. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wait, the Miracles song is the worst song I've ever heard in my life. It's
Okay,
got
I
so
like
much
that.
bad
I like.
theology.
Okay, but I like the tune of it.
Right, but you produce miracles. Great, April. That's you're the deity. You believe in yourself. That's what Exodus is all about. Believe in yourself,
That was
folks. That's
The
the message.
Disneyification of that. They had to throw that in there because every Disney movie is like, believe in your dreams.
The Middle Eastern song in the middle, and then the one right before they sing the song is actually
Those are good.
Yeah, well, that's taken from Miriam's Song of the Sea.
Yeah.
And so it's and that's actually those are well done. That's actually the good part of the movie.
But this is not a critique of that. This is a critique of House of David.
Yeah, well, we
Well-
haven't seen it yet, so
Yeah. Yeah.
Of the trailer.
I do think the portrayal. I want to know like how tall they're making Goliath there. If he's actually
Well,
like,
his hand was as big as a basket. or
I know
whatever.
it's
It
like
reminded me
he's
like
basket.
air.
It was a very Lord of the Rings take. Like, is this the hand of Sauron?
Yeah, it
Saruman
was.
or
And even
something?
some of the like when they show the valley and the music,
Yeah,
it's very
yeah,
yeah.
very Tolkien-esque.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're gonna pull a
Riders
lot
of
that.
Rohan.
No one has any
Well,
original.
there'll be
ideas
chariots.
Chariots of Rohan.
I want to know, like,
I am your king.
Here's one thing I want to know: how far Abner was running away from Joab's brother. It's like whenever
That
I
happens
read
later, though.
Yeah, but that's the house of David. So like when I read it, I'm like, it looks like he's running like a marathon, and he keeps turning around saying, "Stop following me," and he's like, "No," and he's like, "Okay, well, I'm warning you," and he's like, "They've run like around the world," and he's like,
That's
okay.
gonna be just one full
Now
episode.
I gotta. Yes, of him running away.
It'll be like in Rings of Power when the Harfoots just keep walking and walking, and you're like, "Will this never
Will
end?
they stop
Will
walking?
never end."
They're gonna play the Benny Hinn music as they're chasing one
man.
another.
Man. And I'll tell you, Abner is like one of my favorite characters in the Old Testament.
Yeah, Joab is one of the biggest losers.
Joab is a loser. I do not like Joab.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting if they do all of David's life to see what they're gonna depict and what they're not or whatever. I mean, you know,
I was gonna say, that maybe they'll be wise, and I'm like, if ND Wilson's involved, maybe they'll be wise and not portray that. But I don't know. He's okay with middle fingers and profanity, so maybe he's okay with that.
He's okay with stacks of books taller than Goliath's fathers.
Yeah, hopefully no one's gonna be okay with it, but who knows? It's a Prime,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so he may be a consultant, but he probably
No,
doesn't
it
have any
says
control
so.
over
The email that I got from Canon Press about it said that he helped produce and write.
Oh, okay.
Well, at least, the script might be good.
But here's the thing, because even so Brandon Sanderson wrote the last couple books of the Wheel of Time, and he's Mormon, and he's known for having very clean books and clean content.
Yeah.
And then Prime picks up the Wheel of Time. I don't know if he wrote any episodes or if he was just a producer for it, but there was nudity in the Wheel of Time that they put in that.
Oh.
And he
that's
was
the one I
associated
started
with that.
watching because you recommended it. I was like, I started watching that one.
I did not recommend the
And
Wheel
it's got
of
like
Time.
lesbian.
He's like, don't watch Prince of Egypt. Watch this
I
one.
did not recommend. I said, yeah, the Wheel of Time is going to Prime, and the book series is really interesting. And
right. I'm so excited.
yeah, well,
And I was like, that was a
Let's
recommendation
have a watch
to me.
party.
that was not a recommendation for the show. It was a recommendation for the books.
And it wasn't even good.
Well, the books are good.
Oh.
Well, some of them, right?
Well, yeah, not 7 through 11.
If I can't go to 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee, I'm not reading the books.
There's a huge slog in the Wheel of Time, but that's different.
How many books is it? 15?
14, and I don't know if the prologue is 15 or 14, but there are 14 or 15 books.
Wow.
Wow, that's crazy.
I just read the Bible, April.
Okay.
Fiction's a waste of time.
Well, I like to read fiction, so I understand meta narrative, Brian.
I hope everyone enjoyed our fresh take on the House of David.
It's so insightful.
Yeah. Stay tuned for more insights on the show. Peace.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Haven't read the series, might not understand what would need to happen.
Have you read all of them?
I've read all of Frank Herbert's novels. Yes.
Oh, you've read all of them. I've only read
all
the
of
first one because my
I
grandma told me
trudged
that
through
the other
them.
ones were bad.
Let me just start with this. Frank Herbert is not a good storyteller. Not a good storyteller. He's a fantastic world builder. By Morgoth. I am your only future. But they don't they're bred for war. So like Saruman literally grows them in his
In like his vat.
Yeah, in his
orc
vats,
vat.
right? And he gives a sword to him and they go fight. That's and Uruk-hai are better than the original orc or whatever because they can be in the daylight.
The reason why I like Moby Dick so much is, to me, there's a parallel with Genesis. So it's actually history. It's history that Melville he's interviewed. This actually occurred to a bunch of whalers.
Yeah.
And the survivors he interviewed.
Yeah.
And it became this book. But notice how he's writing this history. It's not, here's all the facts that happened. All right, the end. He's writing it because he wants to put meaning and a message to what has occurred.